Well, thank you. Welcome to Deadwood. Welcome to the old style Saloon Number 10. Before we get started with the show, I'd like to introduce some people that are going to be helping me out. First off, I've got the meanest gambler out of Cheyenne, Charlie Rich. Next up, we have retired riverboat captain, Captain Massey. I wouldn't sit Last, we have the owner of Saloon Number 10, Carl Mann. Carl is one man. And last but not least, we have everybody's favorite person, the bartender, Harry Young. Well, as you may know, my name is James Butler Hickok. You probably know me better as Wild Bill Hickok. I was born on May 27, 1837. It only made sense that I joined the Union Army. And when I did fight for the North, I was both a scout and a spy. And during the war, I wound up being shot twice, being captured twice, but I also did escape from those rebel dogs twice. After the war, I met up with a friend of mine you might have heard of by the name of Buffalo Bill Cody. We went out east on that Wild West show of his, showing those Easterners just how crazy it was out here. I did that for a couple of years, but I knew my real place was back on the frontier, so I made my way down to Kansas. I was in Hays City, I was marshal there. And after that, I went to Abilene, I was marshal there. And while I was in Abilene, there was a man by the name of Phil Coe, owned a saloon by the name of the Bull's Head Saloon. And Phil, we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And as all good feuds do, this one did come to a head one day. I was out on Main Street, and there was a big group of people that were causing a ruckus, and I had to stand them off. And old Phil, he drew his gun, he fired twice. And I told him I was going to arrest him for discharging a weapon inside the city limits. He said, "No, no, Wild Bill. I was just shooting at these stray dogs over here." And as he said, they started to turn towards me. I pulled out my pistol and shot him dead. During all that commotion, I saw some movement coming behind me. Turned around, fired again. That was my deputy, Mike Williams. Shot him right through the heart, killed him instantly. That was the worst day of my life. Not quite as bad as Mike had it, but they got me out of law enforcement. I was real broke up after that point. I couldn't do it anymore. I toured around the frontier a little bit, went up to New York, tried out for a play, did a little bit of acting. Can you believe they called me a bad actor up there? That's what I did. I laughed and then I shot him. After that, I got married to a woman by the name of Agnes Lake Thatcher. So all those stories about me and Calamity Jane, they are not true. I mean, really, have you seen her? Oh, no, that's not fair. Calamity and I are actually pretty good friends. Met up with her in Cheyenne. Me, Colorado Charlie, Calamity Jane, we all hopped on a wagon train, took it up here to Deadwood. We left Cheyenne, the three of us, big barrel of whiskey. Got to Deadwood, just the three of us, an empty barrel. I'm sure you guys are getting tired of hearing me, John. I want to get in on this poker game here, so I'm going to head up to the front, get a drink, and I'll be right back.
Hi folks, and welcome to the old style Saloon Number 10. In a few moments, you'll step back in time to witness what happened on that fateful day August 2nd, 1876, when Wild Bill Hickok was gunned down by crooked-nosed Jack McCall. The employees of the number 10 will set the scene for you, so sit back, hang on to your sarsaparilla, and we'll start from the beginning. It was during the latter part of August, 1875. Frank Bryant and a party of 7 gazed down into a gulch of tangled, broken trees, which from then on was to be known as Deadwood Gulch. They made their way to the bottom and began to pan for gold. Soon the cry of gold echoed up and down the canyon walls. They hastily built a crude cabin east of their find, but nevertheless went on to prospect throughout the northern hills, only to return on November 8, 1875, to post a claim of their discovery. On the very next day, November 9, 1875, a second group filed a claim just short of 3 miles up the creek. This outlined a stretch that was destined to become known as the richest placer claim area, not only in North America, but the entire Western Hemisphere. As news of this bonanza leaked out, the rush was on, resulting in a flood of mankind from all directions. The Army could no longer stop the invasion of the fortune hunters. By August 2nd of 1876, Deadwood Gulch, now known as Deadwood City, and often referred to as Sin City, had acquired a worldwide reputation as a booming metropolis. Its surrounding hills and creeks were loaded with gold. Even greenhorns were said to be able to find nuggets, well, as they put it, bigger than horse turds. Its streets were lined with substantial businesses, offering everything from an opera house to dance halls, saloons and banks, stores of every sort, but mainly saloons and gambling dens. Deadwood Gulch was jam-packed with every variety of mankind, good and bad. The likes of Wild Bill Hickok, Seth Bullock, Wyatt Earp, Calamity Jane, Colorado Charlie Utter, California Joe, and Preacher Smith. Somewhere between 4,000 to 6,000 of them. They came with greed or lust and high ideals, but the frenzied excitement that Deadwood provided well satisfied their pioneer spirits. 2 guys named Nuttall and Mann couldn't picture themselves seeking their fortune as prospectors, and instead built a house on their placer claim, number 10, which became known as Saloon Number 10. On the morning of August 2nd, 1876, Harry Young was tending bar in the number 10. His hair was greased, as was customary for bartenders in the old king. This was essential as part of a method used by bartenders to collect a little extra loot for the zone. Before reaching into a prospector's coat for a pinch of gold or glass of good whiskey, the bartender would rub his fingers through his greasy hair, thus oiling them well. He would deposit the unoiled gold dust into the boss's take, and by again rubbing his fingers through his hair, redeposit the oily flakes where it could be washed out later. It's said that there was a bald-headed barkeep who was known to have half a dozen hair pieces, all well oiled. His take was enormous, as the laundering process was more efficient. The dance hall girls had arrived on Colorado Charlie Utter's wagon train in late June, ready and willing to entertain the thousands of eligible prospectors. Some came with hopes of finding the right man. Others came simply to make their own fortune. Their attire, somewhat more revealing than what was thought to be proper, was looked down upon by those trained in ladylike etiquette, but nonetheless, they brought to the gold rush an air of reckless, dazzling excitement. By August 2nd, 1876, they were well established up and down Deadwood City's main street, working around the clock in one fashion or the other. Honky-tonk piano and their songs of promising spirit filled the air. Many an unlucky prospector could find hope for tomorrow, for he knew what the night would bring. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wild Bill Hickok entered Saloon Number 10, seeking a little poker action. Charlie Rich, a gambler from Cheyenne, Carl Mann, owner of Saloon Number 10, and Captain Massey, a riverboat captain from Missouri, were engaged in a game of draw poker and were quick to invite Bill to join them. Wild Bill's reputation demanded that he be exceedingly cautious. For instance, he never liked to sit with his back to the door. The vacant seat was so located, and a lively debate between Charlie Rich and Bill resulted in an attempt on Bill's part to get Charlie's chair.
Charlie, you know you're in my chair. You can't sit here.
No, my lucky chair.
Bill was not given his request, and grudgingly, with great hesitation, took the empty chair. But after a few minutes, he stood up and again asked Charlie for his chair.
Charlie, you know I'm going to need that chair. I can't sit here.
No.
Bill didn't win this argument either, and on this rare occasion, he settled down, sitting with his back to the door. Wariness, though, kept Bill alert, for all knew him to be a left-handed drinker, leaving his right hand free to handle his pistol. As unpredictable as card games are, Bill found himself quickly losing to Massey, who had lost to Bill the night before. Bill asked Harry for $15 worth of pocket checks. Harry brought them over to Bill and returned to the bar and his duties. Soon, a shifty drifter known as Jack McCall entered the saloon. Bill quickly turned while drawing his gun. Recognizing McCall as a newcomer to town, he greeted him with the friendly,
"Howdy, Jack."
then reholstered his gun and resumed the game. Jack slowly circled the table, pausing briefly behind each player and analyzing each hand. While Bill's attention was on Massey, there was a friendly argument between them, and while Bill remarked,
Massey, I'm going to get back all that money you just took from me.
upon returning directly behind Wild Bill, suddenly Jack McCall, the bullet struck Bill in the back of the head, coming out of his left cheek and lodged in Captain Massey's left arm. It was discovered soon after the cards Bill was holding were aces and eights, forever known as the dead man's hand. All fled the saloon except Carl Mann, who was held at bay by McCall. Jack snapped the trigger of his gun several times. It failed to fire. He then ran out the door and up the street. He was found hiding in a building behind a butcher shop. Later on in the day, he was tried in a miner's court. The jury, being tainted and influenced by a deceitful defense, found McCall not guilty, and he was released. This decision not only outraged the judge, but also the general populace. McCall left the camp in haste. Upon reaching supposed safety in Wyoming, he began bragging of his ignoble deed. Word of this reached a U.S. Marshal who tracked McCall down, arrested him, and sent him to Yankton to be tried again in Dakota Territory. It was determined, since the first trial was held in Indian Territory, that it was not legal. McCall was found guilty and hung for his cowardly crime. He was buried in an unmarked grave on the edge of town. Later, as the town grew, the cemetery was moved. As the coffins were opened, one corpse was found with a rope around its neck. It was easily identified as Jack McCall, the assassin of Wild Bill. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking your time to allow us to share that bit of historical lore that made Deadwood a legend.
Thank you so much. Let's get the volunteers out here and get a round of applause for them. Thank you so much for seeing the show. We will be up here for pictures as long as you need us. That is not a spit tune, so please do not spit in there. Have a nice Deadwood day.